Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's on DisneyPlus.com with my thoughts on Diary of a Future President Season 2. But before we get into any of that, make sure you do hit that subscribe button to keep up with the latest Disney Plus news. Diary of a Future President is returning for a second season this coming Wednesday, and they're doing things a little bit differently because all 10 episodes are going to be arriving on the same day. Rather than doing the week-to-week release date, they're just going to drop the lot, which I think does make a lot of sense. I think because this show does skew very young, and therefore, especially with them being off for the summer, they're not being in school yet in most places, they've got more time to be able to sit there and binge it. I don't think a lot of adults are sitting there and watching it. Now, I have gone through and watched all 10 episodes. I had watched the last season, and there were some things that I liked about it. I definitely feel there's been some things that they've improved with this second season. First off, we see a lot more of adult Elena. She's now kind of like an imaginary friend just popping in, giving advice to Elena, and just, I think it works a little bit better because we barely saw her in season 1, but she pops up all the time, and I think that's a much bigger improvement kind of on it. But we don't see any future flash forwards that we saw in the first season, but I'm not too worried about that. I thought that worked quite well. The main thing for this one for me was Bobby's story was, again, fantastic. They were hinting at his sexuality in the first season. This one, they really did do it. Him coming out to members of his family and his friends and the reaction to that. And a lot of the kind of the hype up in that series was about him becoming kind of just dealing with it and what it means and all the rest of it. There's a load of stuff going on in it. It is really well done. My only criticism of the way it's handled is it's all very super fluffy. There's never really any negative side of things to what he's doing, which I actually think is not a bad thing for kids just to see, things are going to work out and it'll all be okay, and everyone's going to accept you. Whether or not that in reality is not the case, but in this like Disney and bubble, I think that's probably for the best, especially at the age that they're aiming at. If you want something a little bit more edgy, maybe Love Victor is that little bit next stage up from here, but I think it's a good starting point. It is a main story in this show. I personally think it's the best thing about the show, but obviously it's still just skewed that a little bit lower. Everything is very much kept in that PG category. There's nothing here that's going to shock anyone, but I definitely feel like it was a great step forward for a Disney show to handle this story. There's also some interesting side stories going on with the mum and her boyfriend moving in and all of that it tells. Just generally kind of him trying to find his place, she trying to find kind of, where, she's got to get used to having somebody around. The kids also adapting to having someone around. They seem pretty fine with it. I did like this kind of whole aspect of involving the parents a little bit more. I think from kids' point of view of seeing, that, what parents have to deal with as well and the issues they've got. And also it just makes it a little bit more of a family show. So if you're watching it with everyone, you can have little aspects to it you like. I'm just not that interested in Elena. I just don't find her character very interesting. They've definitely toned down, because I felt the first couple of episodes of the first season, they were trying to hit too many trigger points of trying to kind of get things through, of trying to be edgy. That's really been cut down in this one. Things are much more simplistic, and I think it works for the better because the other stories are much more interesting. There's other subplots going on in each episode, but generally for me, Elena is not the interesting character. Bobby really is the one that kind of leads this story forward. So again, I enjoyed it. I'm glad. I probably would have preferred it to be weekly. I did find trying to binge the whole lot in a week was probably a bit on the lines of, I could have actually done with a little bit longer between it. Sometimes I got to, I'll go on to the next episode. But I personally don't really like the binge format. I do prefer things being spread out, but they're there to be at your leisure. I don't think you really have to worry too much about spoilers because there's not really anything in here that you wouldn't already know. But generally, yeah, I enjoyed it. I definitely think if you enjoyed the first series, you're going to enjoy the second series. And I think if you're on the fence, maybe just jump back in on the second season. I don't think you really need to have seen much of the first one. But anyway, guys, I'd love to know what you think of Diary of a Future President. I'd like to hear if you're going to be checking out the second season when it arrives this Wednesday on the 18th of August. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure you go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe. Also, a huge thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and also on our YouTube channel memberships. And I shall see you guys in another video. Laters.